Hello everyone, today I am sharing my review of two recent Holo Taco collections, the Pop of Holo collection and the Coastal Cremes collection. Starting with the Pop of Holo collection, we first have the shade Berry Loud. The brand describes this one as a bright magenta purple linear holographic with added shimmer. The application of this polish was great, but it was a little thicker than I had expected. I suspect that the fact that my polishes arrived during a heat wave might have something to do with this, but I'm not sure about it. It did unfortunately cause my second coat to be very uneven, but the third coat fixed it right away. I did feel like this one was not as opaque as I'm used to from Holo Taco's linear holos. It is however a beautiful color and I will definitely use it more often. Here you can see the shade in the sunlight with the topper of the collection Blue Taco on my ring finger. Next up we have the shade Splash Zone. The brand describes this one as a bright turquoise green linear holographic. This shade was a lot greener than I thought I remembered. I thought I remembered that the shade was a lot more blue leaning and a lot closer to hydropower. But no, you can definitely see the green in this and it's stunning. Application was also amazing, not too thick, not too thin, and do not even get me started on the opacity. This is nearly a one coater. And here you can see it in the sunlight with Blue Taco on my ring finger. The third and last linear holo is Hyper Punch. The brand describes this one as a bright watermelon red-pink linear holographic with added shimmer. When I saw this one in the bottle, I thought it looked a little bit dull. However, when I applied it on my nails, it was suddenly very bright. This one also had amazing opacity, just like I expect from Holo Taco's linear holos. The added shimmer in this one was the most visible. Unfortunately, my camera did not really capture the shimmer. And here it is in the sun with Blue Taco on the ring finger. And the last polish for this collection is Acid Drip. The brand describes this one as a bright chartreuse green metallic shimmer with scattered holo. When I first saw the teasers of this collection, this is the polish that instantly caught my attention. Bright greens like this are a gap that I wanted to fill, so this came at the perfect time. Because this is a metallic shimmer based polish, it is a bit on the sheer side. It did apply a little bit uneven unfortunately, however with 3 coats that was fixed. Other than that, the consistency of this polish was absolutely perfect, not too thick, not too thin. And of course, once again, in the sun with Blue Taco on the ring finger. I did not swatch the topper on its own, so you'll have to do with this. Jumping right into the next collection, the Coastal Cremes, we first up have Midnight Marina. The brand describes this one as a bleached indigo blue with a creme formula. In my opinion, this shade has a little bit too much blue in it to be called indigo, but it is a beautiful color nonetheless. Here on my first coat, I did have too little polish on my brush, so you can see a big bald spot near the top of my nail. That was just a user error, because the formula and opacity of this one are both amazing. I would say this could be a one coater. The self-leveling on this one is also great. Unfortunately, when I swatched this collection, the sun is no longer there, so you'll have to do with some indoor shots. Next up is the shade Peer Pressure. The brand describes this one as a bright ocean teal with a creme formula. I think this shade of teal is absolutely perfect for summer. Again, the formula was great, opacity was great, another potential one coater, self-leveling also tip-top perfect. And some full hand indoor shots. Next up is the shade Summer Scandal. The brand describes this one as a bright coral with a creme formula. Now, as you can see, my bottle came with an extremely frayed brush. Because of this, I am not able to give an unbiased review of the application, self-leveling, etc. This one applied a bit uneven, did not self-level great, but I honestly blame the brush for it. Color, however, absolutely stunning. For how bad my brush was, I am pretty proud of myself for how I got this one to turn out. And next up is the shade Boardwalk Behavior. The brand describes this one as a medium bright pink with a creme formula. This shade of pink, in my opinion, is another summer in a bottle. I will say that mine was a little bit on the thick side. Self-leveling could also be a little better, but opacity, once again, amazing. Holo Taco knows how to do their cremes. And some more full hand shots. And next up is Dockside Drama. The brand describes this one as a bright fuchsia purple with a creme formula. This one had just the perfect formula, perfect amount of thickness, amazing self-leveling as well. I was surprised by how matte this one dries down. This is the only polish in the collection that dried down this matte. I wrote in my notes opaque enough for 2 coats, not sure why. Looking back at the footage, opacity is perfect. Next up we have Creamsicle Coast. The brand describes this one as a peachy yellow with a creme formula. This one did apply a little bit patchy on the first coat. I somehow also managed to flood both my cuticle and my sidewall. The self-leveling, however, is amazing. The color itself feels a little bit late summer, early fall maybe. On the second coat it still looked a little bit on the streaky side, so you might want to add a third one. And next up we have the shade Serving Sherbet. The brand describes this one as a light salmon pink with a creme formula. I think that this is a beautiful neutral palette cleansing pink. It did apply a little bit streaky on the first coat. Self-leveling is okay, but could be better. I ended with a little blob on the side of my nail after my first coat, and it was still there when I started my second coat. And last but certainly not least, we have the shade Saltwater Taffy. For such a light green, the opacity is absolutely amazing, not too streaky or patchy. The self-leveling on this shade was also absolutely amazing. Formula was not too thick, and I think that this is an amazing color for summer. I swatched this one out last, and I am still wearing it a few days later while editing this video. That's how much I love it. I also wanted to share some comparisons of the Coastal Cremes collection, because I saw a lot of comments of people saying, oh, but this shade is this one, and this shade is the exact dupe of this one. And I myself also thought that some shades were extremely similar to past shades, so I wanted to show some comparisons. First up, for the purples, I am showing you Dockside Drama next to Work Bestie and Grape Expectations. While I do not color correct my footage, you can definitely see that Dockside Drama and Work Bestie are absolutely not dupes. I would say that Dockside Drama is more similar to Grape Expectations, but of course the formulas are very different, as one is a jelly and the other a creme. Next up, for the blues, I pulled out Sky High to compare to Midnight Marina. Again, Sky High was one of the jelly polishes, so formula is very different. Color wise, while I think that they are indeed similar, they are still not dupes. Also, as a little note, the creams are swatched out in 2 coats and the jellies in 3. Next up, for peer pressure, I pulled out David's Tea and Meltdown. On camera these are reading a lot greener than they do in real life, but you can still see they are not dupes. David's Tea is leaning a lot greener and is a lot brighter in my opinion. Next up, for Saltwater Taffy, I pulled out Seafoam Home and Crime and Punishment. A lot of people, myself included, were mentioning how they thought that Saltwater Taffy looked extremely similar to Seafoam Home. However, seeing all 3 next to each other, I think it actually looks a little more similar to Crime and Punishment. But again, not dupes. As I mentioned in my first impressions video, I really wanted to compare Creamsicle Coast to Butterscotch Hop, which is exactly what I did here. Now in my footage, again I do not color correct, they look extremely similar, basically dupes. However, in real life you can definitely tell that Creamsicle Coast is a lot lighter. I also pulled out Rest in Peach, and in real life that's actually pretty similar. Not as in they are basically dupe similar, but more like they could be sisters. For Summer Scandal, I pulled out the Flores Guava. While I do think that it's a bit more similar to One Melon Followers, I unfortunately do not have that polish to compare it to, but I still wanted to compare it to something, and actually the Flores Guava might be a cousin. For Boardwalk Behavior, I did something entirely different, where I compared a creme to a crelly and a jelly. I compared it to Icon on Board and Glossed and Found. The creme and crelly I swatched out in 2 coats, and the jelly I did in 3 coats. While color wise, yes, they are similar, the formulas are very different of course, and I think that each formula can serve its own purpose in your collection. And lastly, for Serving Sherbet, I compared it to Pinky Swear. While on its own, I do not really see the salmon color in Serving Sherbet. When I put it next to Pinky Swear, hello salmon. And of course, they're not dupes. When it comes to my overall thoughts of both these collections, I actually love every single individual polish. I know this sounds extremely biased, but I love my bright summer polishes so much. Both these collections are just for me. When it comes to the themes, I would have loved for a Pop of Holo collection inspired by pop art to be a little more neon. I also do not think that these polishes were that far off from the theme. As for the Coastal Cremes, did we need 3 pink to pink adjacent colors? Maybe not, but also they are filling in small gaps in the catalog. Overall, I am pleased with both collections and I will get some good uses out of these polishes. I would love to know your thoughts on them, leave a comment down below, and thank you for watching.